I guess we're
Hey,
live actually, are we?
all right. Well, Mr. President, it's great to meet you. How are you today?
I'm doing great. I'm just 5 kilometers away from Libraland today on our base on our in our village, which is 5 kilometers away from Libraland. And I had some amazing discovery today as well. So I'm quite excited about some today's development that we had.
Well, excited to hear more about today's development, but I'm not sure everyone knows what Libraland is. I remember being, I'm going to age myself here, but I remember being in high school in like 2016 and hearing about Libraland and just thinking that this was the coolest thing ever. But I'm not sure all of the people in the audience know what Libraland is. And so my understanding is that you guys have you have sort of utilized the doctrine of terra nullius, the idea that there's land that no sovereign nation lays a claim to make your own country. And that, despite Croatia and Serbia maybe disagreeing with you, I know that there is support in the international community. I know that there are law review articles that say that your country is valid. So why don't you start, Mr. President, by telling us the story of Lieberland and how you got to where you are today?
Of course, it is now 7 years since we started Libraland in 2015, when we were looking for a piece of land where we could start a very free country. We came over this territory, a heart-shaped territory between Croatia and Serbia, by complete coincidence, also 7 square kilometers, almost exactly, on the Danube River. And and for many years, I was trying to fix Czech Republic as a state, looking into the ways how to win elections and convince everybody to lower the regulations and lower the taxes. And at some point, when I said I would like Switzerland, I would like Czech Republic to be more like Switzerland, they told me there is not enough Swiss people in Czech Republic. And they were right. That really comes down sometimes that you need the right type of voters to come up with the right type of government. And at that point, we actually decided it would be much easier to start new country than to fix some existing government, or fix some existing country, because simply it takes generations for people to realize that, for example, freedom works and it brings prosperity. So we found this piece of land between Croatia and Serbia. We stick the flag there. It took only 10 days for Serbia to state that they don't mind creation of Liberland and it was not formed on their territory. But Croatia kept claiming that this piece of land is a Serbia. So we're still in this funny situation in which Serbia doesn't mind creation of Liberland and Croatia keeps claiming that this piece of land is Serbia. That doesn't prevent us from developing our infrastructure, doesn't defend us from building, for example, our blockchain governance, making our constitution perfect, developing our representation in more than 100 countries around the world, building up our diplomatic relations with other foreign states, and for example, going to the UN General Assembly like I'm going next week.
Well, that's so exciting. But talk to us a little bit more about. I go on the website of Lieberland, and I see the blockchain constitution. There's the Wikipedia page says that you guys at one point were thinking about creating your own cryptocurrency. Uh, Talk to us about the role that Bitcoin specifically plays in Lieberland and the role that you hope it will play in the future.
Well, unlike other countries, Liberland doesn't really have a legal tender. We accept anything, any form of contribution that is liquid. And unlike El Salvador, we actually are not planning to make Bitcoin legal tender, but we have used Bitcoin since 2015 as a main reserve currency. And I personally recommend Liberlanders to go all in Bitcoin since 2015. I've been quite outspoken. We were portrayed in the media as a first Bitcoin country many times. So, like technically, we were the first long before El Salvador, 6 years before El Salvador adopted Bitcoin as a cryptocurrency. But with the big difference, we don't force people to accept it. We are saying it's great. You should probably use it, but we are not forcing anybody to accept it. And yes, we are actually developing our own ecosystem, which is more of a governance ecosystem. I have a presentation that would last like 10 minutes that, of course, I could share with you, or we can just talk about it. And we are about to launch it. So it's quite exciting because we are 2 weeks or 3 weeks away from launching the mainnet, and then we are probably another 2 months away from launching the whole system. And we try to take the best out of tokenomics from Bitcoin, and try to take the best elements of Swiss democracy and best elements, for example, of the Singapore ways of governance, and best elements of American Constitution, and combine that with some of the good ideas that the new generation of DAOs, the decentralized autonomous organizations, are building on. So we combined that into one constitution and one big smart contract, and from that we created our chain. We have used Polkadot substrate, but we have changed a lot of things. And I really wanted Libraland government to be the first government that will be running fully on blockchain technologies, that all our IT systems will be integrated into this single platform. So everything from elections to budgeting to court system to land registry, everything will be on in one single place, running completely transparently and as efficiently as possible.
Yeah. Now, you mentioned that you sort of accept any currency there, and I know the motto, the official motto of Libraland is "Live and let live." So, two questions for you, Mr. President. We are clearly at a crossroads for global freedom. I think that a lot of people in the audience would probably agree that our liberties, our rights, no matter where we are under assault now, perhaps more than ever in recent history. So, two questions for you. One, what does freedom mean to you? And two, what role does Libraland have to play in the fight for global freedom?
Well, Libraland wants to be the spearhead of freedom movement in the world, and actually it cannot get much better than that. If you're fighting for freedom, you can of course also claim another planet, but claiming a piece of land for liberty-oriented people, I think it's as good as it can go. Of course, I'm a big fan of Elon Musk taking over Mars, but I think we have much homework to do here on our planet, and to be, I think, frank, the governments that we have created so far are quite outdated. They are all built on technologies and on thinking that was there 250 years ago. There has been zero innovation in that field, and they haven't utilized the right technologies for governance and the right ideology. And it's really time to improve that, to build a new generation of governance for the new millennia, which I think will prevail over the existing models.
Now, is your hope that your efforts in Libraland inspire other countries to follow suit and sort of model themselves after your behavior, or is your hope to just grow the nation and sort of in this free market of laws and governance, just attract people to come build up the sort of base of the country? Like, what's the long term play here?
I think it's both, but of course, our secret plan is take over the world and leave people alone. So we're trying to follow that path. And now it's not secret anymore, but yes, our path is, and our mission is to inspire other countries. And just like Hong Kong, for example, completely revolutionized China, we want to do the same for Balkans. We want to be this Hong Kong of the region, like also Singapore, right? It is amazing how these places also affect the countries around it. And we have calculated actually that when we fully start growing Libraland, we will also boost Croatia's and Serbia's economy by at least 1% of GDP a year. We will have a huge influence over boosting our neighbors' economies.
Right, and I'm assuming that there are no taxes in Libraland. Is that
We've
correct?
got voluntary tax system. It's a different. We are not
Okay.
tax haven. We are tax heaven. There are these small words that. So you literally decide how much you want to pay, and the big improvement over the tax havens is that you actually get the shares of the country that you're living in. And I think that's a critical thing. Like in places like Bahama, you don't have to pay taxes, but if you pay them, you don't get anything in return, right? But in Liberland, you actually become a shareholder of the country that you're living in, which I think is a just and right way how to reward the taxpayers.
Now, if someone here in the audience wanted to become a citizen of Libraland, I'm told it's not that difficult. Can you walk us through the process briefly?
Well, first of all, people have to become e-residents. We make sure that they don't have a criminal background or they are not wanted terrorists, and that takes roughly 10 minutes to go through the process. You just need to upload your picture and we verify your identity. And the second step is substantially contribute to Libraland. So people that actually stay in Libraland for a couple of days, or people that help to settle it, and people that for example build up our diplomacy abroad are also becoming citizens. But also it's possible to donate to development of Libraland. Right now it's 5,000 merits, and that equals for now with $5,000. But that will change very soon because merit will become floating currency, floating token of Liberland. So it will be difficult to say how much this master node in our system will be in terms of dollars in the near future.
All right. Now, you mentioned earlier that you had some exciting news to share. What is the new development?
You wouldn't believe it, but we actually do have archaeological site inside of Liberland, and I for 7 years I wasn't aware of it, and not even people in the local museum were aware of it. There was this just one lady that kept the secret, and but it's a beautiful archaeological site which hasn't been explored for more than 120 years, and I'm excited that we have this huge history. This village was built in 11th century actually, and it was completely hidden from Liberlanders, but also from the rest of the world. And now we know where that place is inside of Liberland, where we should start digging. And I also found small uh, parts of the church, the parts of the doors in the local museum, which I'm very excited about. So for me, like the whole Liberland history just got boosted at least 10x, and we have something really to explore and to take care of.
Yeah. So, how many people are currently citizens of Libraland?
We have roughly 7,000 e-residents and citizens at this stage, and we have almost 700,000 applications for citizenship.
Wow, 700,000 applications. That's pretty impressive. What is your sort of let's call them 5, 10, and 25 year goals and roadmaps? Where do you want to see Lieberland in 5 years? Where do you want to see Lieberland in 10 years? And where do you want to see Lieberland in 25 years?
If you look into how fast, for example, Dubai or Singapore or Hong Kong develop, this 20 years landmark usually is this difference between a fisherman's village and first skyscrapers. So I hope we will be faster than that, and that we will build the skyscrapers in under 10 years, for example. And we are actually building this beautiful urban plan with Zaha Hadid Architects, which I just learned that it's actually the number one published architectural studio in the world, number one uh, most written about. So with their help, we're building this metaverse, or this place where people will be able to write to actually put their 3D designs into this metaverse, and then we'll be able to divide the parcels. Uh, so we are working on it already, but of course it will take a while to finish our diplomatic talks with Croatia to, for example, become members of some fully recognized international organizations. It's still a long path, but we are on a very good way. We actually managed to get a couple recognitions by regular sovereign countries last year and this year as well. So I'm quite excited about our progress.
All right. And going to the Q&A, we've got a question from Robert Chapman. He asks, is President Jadlika using Bitcoin for any international trade or for domestic development? And how has that been so far?
Well, good. And unfortunately, I have to use it again today. And I'm a little bit sad because it's a substantial amount of money that we are putting into the local development. And I wish Bitcoin was a little bit higher since we are cashing it out today. But we have been, as I said, using it probably 90% of transactions since inception of Liberland were in Bitcoin. So it has been the number one currency in our ecosystem from beginning. But also we have very big investors that are also citizens into Bitcoin. I mean, I was just on the call with Brock Pierce. We are working with Roger Ver for many years. Uh, for example, Bitcoin Swiss, if you know the company, and Nicholas Nicolaisen, they were the first settlers of Libraland. Now this is a major dealing company with Bitcoins for the Switzerland banks. So all these institutions are tightly connected to Libraland for many years.
Yeah, no, I think a lot of Bitcoiners would be excited about what you're doing in Libraland, but truthfully, I know many would be skeptical at the idea of sort of creating your own cryptocurrency. The Libraland, merit. Uh, asking sort of on behalf of those people in the audience, why bother creating your own kind of currency when you have access to the hardest money ever created?
It's not a currency. It's a token. It's a
Mm.
governance token, which basically represents your citizenship and your involvement. So there is no way we could substitute for this with bitcoins, right? Like it is basically your share inside of the Liberland community. So um, I understand that. I never wanted to kind of create new shitcoin in a way, but for us, it's a way to. It's a form of giving back to taxpayers, and it represents the personal involvement as well as the citizenship. So if people have over 5,000 merits, they automatically receive the citizenship, and that citizenship gives them other types of rights in our community.
All right. Well, that makes a ton of sense to me. Mr. President, as we're sort of winding down here, what else would you like the audience to know, whether it's about Libraland in general or about the sort of nexus of Bitcoin and Libraland?
Well, I hope Bitcoin boosts by the end of the year, as it usually does every seasonally, and I hope that the listeners are hodling, and I also hope that you will be able to, during one of your vacations or permanently, like many Bitcoiners do, move to Liberland. It's very close to international airport Osijek, but it also is between two major airports, Belgrade and Budapest. So it's only 1.5 hours of drive from Belgrade, and it's a beautiful area. And we're building a village here, where more people are settling every week. We have somebody coming and joining us here, and those are the people that are ready to settle Liberland. And we are also building houseboats. So we're building houseboat city next to Liberland. And as Croatia is actually joining the Schengen, people from EU will be free to basically go right next to Liberland without having to do a border crossing with Croatia, which is great improvement for accessibility of Liberland since 1st of January. So that's one thing that I would love people to come here. And the next biggest event is the anniversary. It's the 13th of April. It's amazing opportunity to meet other Liberlanders. It's amazing opportunity to meet Liberland, but also very likely to properly settle it. So people, I hope, will be able to permanently stay in Liberland and help us develop it. And another great thing is that we have this whole infrastructure for companies already. So people are able to start their companies, utilize, for example, our market, where you have, I think, 20 different cryptocurrencies that automatically are accepted. But not just that, for example, PayPal and Stripe. So with your Liberland company, you're free to basically utilize all these types of payments. And we also have a banking for Libraland company. So not just crypto, but if you still need to work with the old world, which many people do, unfortunately, you still have a great opportunity to start a company which is free of regulations, free of obligatory taxes, and is tax free, which is very cool.
All right. Well, April 13th, I just wrote that date down. I cannot promise to permanently move to Lieberland, Mr. President, but I think I could take a week or two and come see what's going on over there. It sounds like a lot of fun. So I may well take you up on that.
That would be lovely. We would love to see you here, and of course, it would be great if you help us to organize similar conference like you're doing these days.
Yeah, I think a Bitcoin conference in Lieberland would be incredible. I see we've got a little bit more time added here. So another thing I was just interested in, kind of reading more about Lieberland this morning. You are I guess, on a mission in some ways to just get more and more countries to validate and recognize your existence. And obviously, there are a lot of countries who might say, well, this is kind of trivial. We're not going to comment on this. But I mean, it seems like you're right. It seems like both of these countries, like Croatia and Serbia, have sort of voided their claim to this land, and that long-standing international norms suggest that you're correct, that this is your country, that Libraland is a valid nation. Can you talk to us a little bit more about that process of kind of trying to get other nations to say, you know what, Mr. President, you're right. Terra nullius is the doctrine of international law, and you're correct. Libraland is a real country. So can you walk us through sort of what those
So
conversations
let's say
look like?
we have 10 countries that actually started diplomatic relations with us so far, which is not bad. Out of 200
No.
countries, we still have some 190 countries to go. We have now as I said, our representative offices in more than 100 countries around the world, and all these representatives are usually very well connected to government. So just yesterday, I received invitation from yet another South American government to visit and to praise, for example, Bitcoin, because that's one of the things that we are doing. And of course, Liberlanders were, I would say, strongly involved with adoption of Bitcoin also in El Salvador and in many other countries. So, like Liberland as a nation, I would say, do have this prophetic side of praising Bitcoin and pushing other countries to accept it as a legal tender. And and of course, it's a challenge. It's not an easy task because we are breaking the paradigm on the ways that countries are created. But from the other perspective, it's not that difficult because Liberland is not separatist movement. We are not taking away anybody else's property. We are not some sort of terrorist, not
Yeah.
bound by some ISIS-like religion or I don't know. We are not criminals, right? We are actually the most criminal-free nation in the world because we make sure that everybody that becomes citizen don't have a criminal background. So just
Right.
think about it. Which other nation makes complete check on all the citizens before they become citizens? Of course, those countries have to deal with their own criminals. So we're quite nice country, quite nice nation. And one thing is that one thing is nation, of course, and the other thing is country. And the nation, you can have a nation without country. And there is this movement now, and you might have heard about the network state book, which was recently written, that basically pushes for the creation of these network states based on just nationality. But Liberland is different. We have all of these benefits, plus we actually have a sovereign claim on sovereign territory, which was already recognized by a couple of UN recognized countries. But
Yeah.
it was fun at the beginning. Just to mention, the first country to recognize Liberland was Somaliland. I don't know how many of you are familiar with that country, but I was the first president ever to visit that country, and it was big show. We signed agreement about collaboration, and Somaliland is not recognized by any other country, even though it's same size as United Kingdom, and it's right next to Somalia. There is 5 million people living in there, but imagine nobody recognizes them as a country for some reason. And but that was the first experience, roughly 3.5 years ago. We went there, cut the first deal, and since that, we every 3 months or 4 months, we're actually visiting another country, making another either collaboration deal or a recognition deal with that country. And we're always bringing some humanitarian activity or some intellectual property or bunch of entrepreneurs with us. So for us, of course, the easiest is if some major investor in some country decides to change his citizenship from, let's say, German to Liberland, and then Liberlanders have a very good negotiating position with the existing government in that country. So yes, it is a difficult diplomatic job. I'm very proud of the people that are helping me. Just to mention, for example, Tariq Abbasi is the only is also representative of British Queen, not just representative of Liberland. Boki Wozniak was very close to the President of United States, who is our Vice President. For example, Thomas Walls, our Foreign Minister, is a former U.S. diplomat. So we have a very strong international team. They're actually meeting right now. So right after I skip out of this conference, I will be joining the cabinet call.
Wow. Yeah, I mean, I would say that your the founding of Libraland is really no different than the founding of really any other country, right? I mean, especially in the new world. I mean, most nations were formed because someone sort of stuck their claim to it, and then those, were willing to and able to defend that claim with force. Now, you guys don't have a standing army, as I understand it. Do you have any plans of developing like a sort of a national defense
We have
infrastructure?
Libraland Rangers, and it's a, I would say, organized unit of individuals, but we are also developing, I would say, advanced systems of defense that we would like to use for Libraland to save manpower. But we are not planning to have a standing army. We are just planning to have internal security forces, and those Libraland Rangers, I think, are the right type of organization for that.
Yeah, that sounds great. Now, if I wanted to become a citizen of Lieberland, would I have to go? Would I have to sort of void my U.S. citizenship, or could
Not at
I
all, not
become
at
a
all.
citizen of Lieberland without doing
Not at
that?
all. If you're from China, maybe you would have that problem because they don't allow other citizenships. And of course, some other countries also have problem with dual citizenship. But in US, not at all. And there is also catch 22. If the country, for example, China doesn't recognize Liberland, they shouldn't have problem with somebody becoming citizen of Liberland. So, and by the way, that catch 22 goes through many things. Like, for example, you cannot put up foreign flag in Croatia. But if they would fine you for with €100 fine if you put up some other than Croatia's country flag on your yard. But of course, if you put up Liberland flag, they would recognize that it's a foreign country if they find you for it, and many other examples for that of that. So anyway, we are building Liberland. We're quite serious about it, but we also have a lot of fun while doing it.
Yeah, well, I think I might apply for citizenship right after interview. That seems like a worthwhile use of my time, and I'd love to be able to talk to you more about kind of the Bitcoin trajectory of Lieberland and thinking about some of your Bitcoin policies when it sort of pertains to trade. So I'd like to get more involved. So you may be getting an email from me and a citizenship application here pretty soon.
That would be lovely. That would be lovely. And by the way, we have another a very cool citizen that just became citizen, Drubinski. If you know the guy, he is the most famous video blogger, travel video blogger, and I think he's going to put out a video next week. I think it's going to bring us a lot of new cool citizens. Every video that he makes has 20 million views. So this week is a very exciting in terms of new citizenship.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for being here, Mr. President. Thank you for all of the updates about what's going on in Lieberland and explaining to the Bitcoin community the role that you guys are playing in global freedom and the role that Bitcoin is playing in helping you achieve it. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. It was a great pleasure being with you.
Likewise.